Book of Heaven Volume 3 by Luisa Piccarreta. Page 103–109. July 18, 1900. The sins of the people fall upon them and cause their ruin. As I was in my usual state, I saw my adorable Jesus for just a little, all afflicted inside my heart, and I also saw many people committing many sins. These sins were setting out toward me to come to wound my beloved Lord even inside my heart. But Jesus would push them away from himself, and they would come to fall upon the people themselves, and in falling upon them they would form their own ruin, changing into many kinds of scourges over the peoples, such as to horrify the hardest hearts. Then, all grieved, Jesus told me, "My daughter, to what extent reaches the blindness of men? While they try to wound me, they wound themselves with their own hands." July 19, 1900. Luisa offers herself to suffer, so that people might be spared. This morning, after spending the whole night and great part of the morning waiting for my adorable Jesus, he was not deigning to come. So, tired of waiting for him, I tried to go out of my usual state, thinking that it might no longer be will of God. Almost impatient, while I was trying to go out of it, my benign Jesus moved within my heart, just barely making himself seen and looking at me in silence. Impatient as I was, I said to him, "My good Jesus, how can you be so cruel? Can there be greater cruelty than this, abandoning a soul prey to the ruthless tyrant of love that makes her live in continuous agony? Oh, how you have changed, from loving into cruel." While I was saying this, I saw many mutilated members of people before me, so I added, "Ah, Lord, how much mutilated human flesh! How many bitternesses and pains! Ah, would it not have been a lesser cruelty if you had satisfied yourself in this body of mine, by tearing it into as many pieces for as many divisions as you have caused in these members? Would it not have been a lesser evil to see only one suffer, rather than many poor peoples?" While I was saying this, Jesus continued to fix on me, as if he were struck. I cannot tell whether he was grieved too, and he said to me, "Yet, this is the beginning of the game. This is still nothing compared to what will come." Having said this, he flew away from my sight, without letting me see him any more, leaving me in a sea of bitternesses. July 21, 1900. Necessity of purification. After spending one day being dozy and so sleepy that I could not understand myself, having received communion, I felt I was going outside of myself, but I could not find my highest and only good. So I began to go round and round in a delirium. While doing this, I felt there was someone in my arms, completely veiled, in such a way that I could not see who he was. So, unable to refrain any longer, I tore that veil and I saw my longed for all. On seeing him, I felt I wanted to burst into complaints and nonsense, but in order to break my impatience and my delirium, Jesus gave me a kiss. That kiss infused in me life, calm, and broke my impatience, so much so, that I was unable to say anything anymore. Then, forgetting all my miseries, and I have many, I remembered the poor people, and I said to Jesus, "Placate yourself, spare so many people's torments so cruel. Let us go together where such things are happening, that we may comfort and console those poor Christians who are in such a sad state." And he, "My daughter, I do not want to take you, for your heart would not bear seeing such a harrowing slaughter." And I, "Ah, Lord, how is it that you have permitted this?" And he, "It is necessary, absolutely, for the sake of purgation in every place, because in the field sowed by me weeds and thorns have grown so much as to become trees. And these thorny trees do nothing but inundate my field with poisonous and pestilent waters, to the point that if some ear of grain remains intact, it receives nothing but punctures and stench, so much so, that it is impossible for more ears to germinate. First, because they lack the ground, which is occupied by so many noxious plants. Second, because of the continuous punctures they receive, which give them no peace. So, behold the necessity of the slaughter, to root out so many bad plants, and of shedding of blood, to purge my field of those poisonous and pestilent waters. Therefore, do not want to grow sad at this beginning, because not only there where I have sent chastisements, but in all other places is purgation needed. Who can say the consternation of my heart in hearing this speaking of Jesus? So, again, I insisted that I wanted to go see, but Jesus, not listening to me, disappeared. Left alone, I took my way to go there, but I found now an angel, who would make me go back, and now purging souls, to the point that I was forced to return into myself. July 25, 1900. There is no cruelty at all in Jesus. Everything is love. This morning my adorable Jesus came and made me see a machine in which it seemed that many human members were being crushed, as well as something like 2 signs of chastisements in the air. Chastisements that struck terror. Who can say the consternation of my heart in seeing all this? But blessed Jesus, seeing me so embittered, told me, "My daughter, let us move what so much afflicts us away from us for a little while, and let us cheer each other by playing together a little bit." Who can say what passed between Jesus and me in this game? The finesses of love, the stratagems, the kisses and the caresses that we gave each other. However, my beloved Jesus surpassed me because, being very weak, I would faint. So much so, that unable to contain within myself what he was giving me, I said, "My beloved, enough, enough, for I can take no more. I faint. My poor heart is not so large as to be capable of receiving so much. So enough for now." Then, wanting to scold me because of my speaking of the other day, sweetly he said to me, "Let me hear your complaints. Tell me, am I cruel? Has my love changed into cruelty for you?" And I, all blushing, said, "No, Lord, you are not cruel when you come, but when you do not come, then I will say that you are cruel." Smiling at my words, he added, "You still keep saying that I am cruel when I do not come? No, there can be no cruelty at all in me. Everything is love. And know that if it is as you say, my very being cruel is greater love." July 27, 1900. Visions of attacks against the Church and of persecutions in China. I was all worried about my miserable state, especially that it might no longer be will of God, and I considered my scarce suffering and his continuous privation a sure sign of this. Now, while I was wearing out my little brain over this and I struggled to snap out of it, my always good Jesus made himself seen like a flash, saying to me, "My daughter, what do you want me to do? Tell me, I will do what you want." At such an unexpected proposal, I did not know what to say. I felt such confusion over the fact that blessed Jesus would have to do what I wanted, while it is I who must do what he wants, that I remained mute. So, seeing that I was not saying anything, he escaped like a flash, and I, running after that light, found myself outside of myself. But I did not find him, so I wandered around the earth, the heavens, the stars, calling him now with my voice, now with my singing, thinking to myself that on hearing my voice and my singing blessed Jesus would be wounded and I would find him with certainty. Now, while wandering around, I saw the cruel torment that continues in the war of China. Churches knocked down, images of our Lord thrown to the ground. And this is nothing yet. That which frightened me the most was to see that if now this is done by barbarians, by secular, later it will be done by false religious who, removing their masks and letting themselves be known for who they are, uniting with the open enemies of the Church, will launch such an attack as to be incredible to the human mind. Oh, how many more cruel torments! It seems that they have sworn among themselves to end it with the Church. But the Lord will take revenge over them by destroying them. So, blood on one side, and blood on the other. Then I found myself inside a garden which seemed to be the Church, and inside of it there was a crowd of people in the appearance of dragons, of vipers and of other raging beasts, which devastated that garden, and then went outside, forming the ruin of the peoples. Now, while I was seeing this, I found my beloved Lord in my arms, and I said, "Finally you have let yourself be found. Are you really my dear Jesus?" And he, "Yes, I am your Jesus." And I wanted to tell him to spare so many people, but he, not paying attention to me in this, all afflicted, added, "My daughter, I am quite tired. Let us go into your bed to rest if you want me to remain with you." And I, fearing that he might leave, kept silent, allowing him to fall asleep. Then, after a little while, he re-entered into my interior, leaving me reassured, yes, but highly afflicted. July 30, 1900. Luisa stops the sword of justice. I spent one night and one day being restless. From the very beginning I felt I was going outside of myself, without being able to find my adorable Jesus. I could see nothing but things that struck terror and fright in me. I could see that a fire was flaring up in Italy, and another one had flared up in China, and little by little, uniting together, they were blending into one. In this fire I could see the King of Italy who had suddenly died by a trick, and this was the means to ignite and expand the fire. In some, I could see a revolt, a tumult, a killing of people. After having seen these things, I felt I was inside myself and I felt my soul being tortured, to the point of feeling I was dying. More so, since I could not see my adorable Jesus. Then, after much waiting, he made himself seen with a sword in his hand, in the act of throwing it over the people. All frightened, and made a little daring, I took the sword in my hand, telling him, "Lord, what are you doing? Don't you see how many disasters will occur if you throw this sword? What grieves me the most is that I see that you are putting Italy in the middle. Ah, Lord, placate yourself, have pity on your images. And if you say that you love me, spare me this bitter sorrow." And while saying this, I held on to that sword as tightly as I could. Heaving a sigh, all afflicted, Jesus said to me, "My daughter, let it go. Let it fall upon the people, for I can take no more." And I, holding it more tightly, "I cannot let it go, I do not have the heart to do it." And he, "Have I not told you many times that I am forced not to let you see anything? Otherwise I am not free to do what I want." And while saying this, he lowered his arm with the sword, and placed himself in the act of calming his fury. After a little while he disappeared from me, and I was left with the fear that, who knows, without letting me see it, he might pull the sword away from me and throw it over the people. Oh, God! What a heartbreak, the mere remembering.